Okay, so we've covered a lot of ground. Let's look at scripting now. And scripting isn't as scary as it might sound. It's literally just grabbing a bunch of the commands you've been running on your bash terminal, putting them inside of a file, and then executing them all at once. That's script. So with that, let's jump in. Make sure you've got two terminals set up just like I did right now, one left, one right. And in the left, we're going to write vim, and we're going to create our first script. We're going to call this simple script and hit enter. Now, we need to put a header at the top of the file here to let Bash and Linux know that this is a script to be executed. And what we do is we put this little hashtag exclamation mark, which is called shebang. It's actually called shebang. So this would read as shebang bin bash. And this instructs the shell to know that when you run this file, run it inside of the bash shell. And now let's add a command. Let's just put in something like echo, and then we can write hello world, and that's good enough. So let's save this, escape, write, exclamation mark, so we don't close it. So now it's saved. Let's go to the right terminal, and we need to actually run this script. So in order to do that, we need to make the script executable. Well, remember those file mode bits for permissions? Well, if we run a less tac al on this script right here of a simple script, we can see that it's missing that X bit. It's not available for anyone, so we can't actually just execute it. Now there's a fancy shorthand that we can do with chmod of just plus X, and that will provide the executable bit to be set for all of the access tiers. That's just a little handy shortcut. And now this script is executable, and notice that the name is now in green. It's been changed in the terminal to indicate and let us know that it's executable. Now all that's left is for us just to actually run the script. So let's do that right now, and we can reference a script locally with // and run it. And that's it. Our script ran, so that's hello world. And that's as simple as it gets. You just put the bin bash at the top, you put in some commands, and off you go. So let's update that echo statement now. Let's go back inside of Vim. And let's just say something like I can script. And then once we've made our changes, we want to hit escape and then :W with exclamation mark again, and then go in the right-hand terminal and run it. And awesome. So now you can see we can update our script on the fly on the left-hand side, and then we can just run the script right away in the right terminal to see our results. So we've created like a little small development environment for us. Awesome. Now let's delete this line with DD as we learned last lab. And let's add some more commands to this. Let's make it a little bit more useful and fun. So let's throw in the whoami command. And then maybe afterwards we can put the date. And finally, as a last command, we can put something in there like pwd. But come to think of it, the script's kind of lacking a little bit of character. So any good script or program has some type of introductory statement, right? So let's go back up to the top. And let's throw an echo statement inside there that just greets the user to some degree. So we'll do echo, and then we'll say that this script prints the current user account name, the date, and the current directory. I think that'll be good. So let's just finish typing that out. Then let's update our changes, go on the right, run the script. And look at that, like that's pretty cool. So we have this little welcome statement, and you can see those are the outputs of running those commands on the terminal before. So all the commands that you've learned to date, you can now start building scripts with. Awesome, so let's actually make the script have some interactivity with the user. And we'll give it a file name of greetuser.sh. And this will be different because it has a file extension of .sh for a shell file type. Now watch what happens when I put in the shebang bin bash. You can see that the color is different. And this actually is called syntax highlighting. Now it registers this file type as a bash shell script file. And it knows that this is bash code. So it starts to highlight things for us to make it a little bit visually appealing and a little bit easier to read and identify what are commands, what are text, and what are special types of commands inside of this script. Let's observe that now. If we type in echo, see how it turns yellow, and that's registered as a bash command on its own. And then when we put some text inside of the quotes of hello, what is your name, it turns this deep purple. And that lets us know that that's straight up simple text. Pretty cool, right? Now, let's add some interactivity and use the read command. And read is a command that asks for user input. And once we get the user input, we have to store it somewhere. So we're going to introduce you to a concept called variables. So if we declare a variable here called name, we've now said that when the user inputs their name into the terminal, to store it inside of the variable called name. And to make things really simple, consider that a variable is just a bucket. It's just a bucket of data. And you can put data inside the bucket and you can pour the bucket out and recall that data when you need. But each bucket has to have a name. So we have a variable name right now storing the user's name when they enter it. And if we want to call the value of whatever the user gave us, we can actually pour that bucket out. We can call that variable, and the way that we call the variable and the value within it, we just put a $ in front and see how it changed to like this bluish cyan kind of color. And that lets you differentiate it and know that you're now referring to the value of what the variable contains. So let's just finish up this line now and say hello name, which will be the user's name. Say, I hope you have a good day today. And I think that's enough to demonstrate the concept. So let's walk through the script once again after we write and save it. The greet user.sh script will run. It will greet them with a hello, what is your name? And then a prompt will appear and ask the user to put some input, which they will hopefully put their name in. And then we'll have a final name that just says hello, and it will call back the value of whatever the user gave us for their name. And then it will just say, I hope you have a good day today. Cool. So let's go ahead now and make our new script executable just like before, chmod +x on a greet user, and let's run it. So there's our welcome statement. And now we have to put in some input. So I'll put Anthony for me. And there you go. It welcomes me. So that's kind of cool. It knows my name. Hello, Anthony. I hope you have a good day today. That's kind of cool. So that's how variables work. We have to declare them at one point and put a value inside of them, and then we can just call them whenever we need. And that's a variable that we declared. We created it, and it lives within inside the scope of the script. Now, there are also environmental variables that live within inside of the terminal, inside of the operating system at all times, one of which is called shell. And we can call the value of the variable in the command line whenever we want by using the echo command. So echo and the name of the variable, which is shell, and we get bin bash. Now, these environmental variables in the command line that we can call and refer to are mostly revolving around our user account. So when we call the shell variable, that output there of bin bash is telling us that our user account of Ubuntu, their shell is bin bash. That's the shell that they are currently using. And there are a lot of variables. There's another one called the home variable, and that is just storing the value of where our current home is, like home Ubuntu. Now we can do echo name and it's empty. You see, it only lives within inside the script. It doesn't live within inside the terminal. There's two different types of scope happening here. Okay, so let's clear all that and just look at another variable called user, and that's us. So that's Ubuntu. So you can see, and there are actually a lot more variables, and those are all, again, called environmental variables. They live within the terminal outside of scripts themselves and can be called whenever, wherever. Okay, so that's a basic introduction to scripting. It's not that complicated, right? We just throw in commands that we already know. But now that we cover the concept of variables, we can do some pretty cool things. We can finally create. We're no longer just using Linux for utility, but we can create with Linux. And this is where it gets fun.